Well, thank you, Mark. First thing I want to make a disclaimer. I wasn't the advisor to Gorbachev. I was an advisor. I will take the blame for what happened over there. But it is a great lesson for us. Look what they did to that country. Socialists did that. The country with 11 time zones, 1/6 of the world's surface, with almost all possible and impossible natural resources, was ruined, reduced to rubble by socialist policies. And as Russians usually say, they are not very pessimistic, they are not very optimistic about the future. They have one saying is that pessimist is a better informed optimist. But the other saying is that the only lesson of history that it does not teach us anything. And it is very sad for me to see that here people are selling their liberty for handouts, for all kinds of government programs. Now we have, you would believe it, we have 55 million people on food stamps. We have almost 50% of Americans do not pay any taxes. We have 85 million people on this or that kind of welfare. So this is when tax eaters without base taxpayers stand at the end of our republic. That's the message from Thomas Jefferson. So this is very, very important for us to, I think, to learn from that countries. Socialism is not only bad that it deprives people of individual liberty, it is deadly. When socialist leaders have enough power, they murder people to make them do what the leaders want. Last century, in Russia alone, from 40 to 60 million people were murdered by the KGB. Under Stalin, under Lenin, under Khrushchev. Well, they're discussing 40 or 60 million. It's irrelevant for me. The numbers are stunning. Stalin himself used to say, death of one person is a tragedy. Death of millions is just a statistic. So just for the sake of these millions of innocent people murdered, we should, I think, keep our freedom, be a beacon of liberty for the people all over the world. Then the enemies of freedom, they're using any excuse to deprive you of your liberty. Great Austrian economist Friedrich August von Hayek, I think Evgeny Greshnev, he mentioned him. He used to say, to deprive people of liberty and to greatly expand the power of government, you need a crisis. This crisis can be real, imaginary, or fabricated. At this point, we have all three. We have a crisis today, for example. And where is this global warming? I feel like I'm back in Wisconsin or back in Siberia. But it is used, climate change is used to deprive you of your liberty. Another excuse is healthcare. That healthcare is so expensive that we need to nationalize it. And healthcare, don't make any mistake about that. That with nationalization of healthcare, they're nationalizing your budgets. You would be dependent on petty government bureaucracy in matters of life and death. I was speaking recently in Ohio, in a university, and one very liberal lady, she said, yes, I recognize you. You came to us to scare us. And I said, yes, exactly. That's what I want to do. I want to scare people here. And I wish somebody would come to Russia in 1917 and scare people there, real royally, before 60 million were murdered. I wish somebody would come to Cuba in 1959 and scare that people, that they would not let this beautiful island with proud and beautiful people to be destroyed, reduced to rubble. I go to Cuba often. I can attest you that Cuba is on the brink of disaster. Michael Moore, the socialist propaganda person, he just made a movie, Sicko. And I was there with my students. One student asked the Cuban official, how about healthcare in Cuba? We heard it's good, but everything else is in pretty bad shape. And he said, yes, our healthcare is the best in the world. But it could be even better if we would have ambulances clinics, and medicines. And then after that, because he was trained in Russia, he could speak Russian well. And when we were exiting, he said in Russian to me, he said, the only healthcare we have is to swim to Miami. And that's exactly right. So, but everything is used to deprive people of their liberty. It's very sad, however, that American people, I think, made their voice very clear. And this voice was not, however, our message was not understood in Washington, D.C. If you look what kind of circus is going on right now in Washington, when we trusted Republican leadership in cutting budget, in cutting this unbelievable budget deficit. Today, Goldman Sachs, they had a conference. They had a conference together with government officials how to issue 100-year maturity bonds. Bonds which would be mature in 100 years. So they want to mortgage not even you, not even your children, but your grandchildren. Why do they do that? Well, when I came to the United States, I had a lunch with Sam Francis. He died already. Very nice conservative thinker. And he said, Yuri, we have a two-party system. And I was thinking what he's telling me. Everybody knows that. And then he said, one party is stupid and another evil. And sometimes you really feel that he is absolutely right. Because look what happened with the budget deficit reduction plan. This is a travesty. And people like Boehner and Hunter, they're just betraying us. I am pretty proud, I'm from Wisconsin, I'm pretty proud for our governor, Scott Walker. He stood against the socialist mob, and he is winning. I'm pretty good opinion of my congressman, Paul Ryan. He is doing a good job, but many others do not. Many others are selling us like we are kind of pawns in their grandiose kind of government scheme. So this I think are the most important issues before us, to make Republican leadership listen to us, and to recall people who do not, because this is really, I would say, important. Then if you will return back to issues, for example, of healthcare. What is socialism exactly? Socialism, as defined by Marx, is government ownership. And look how government ownership expanded during the last 3 years. Look, we have government motors. Our financial sector industry is overregulated and to some extent nationalized. And now they want to nationalize 1/6 of our economy, which is healthcare industry, under the pretext that healthcare is too expensive. It is expensive because we want good healthcare. In 1960, how much would you pay for a bypass surgery? Nothing, zero. You would save a lot. You would die younger. How much money you would pay for hip replacement? There was no such a thing at that time. It's increase in quality. It's increase in wonderful drugs that people are getting and live longer. And if you will look at our statistics, we have the best healthcare in the world right now. And then to risk it, I think that we should be very much aware that that healthcare is extremely important to give it to the government. Back in the Soviet Union, in that country that was a superpower number 2, life expectancy for men, 57. Even in today's Russia, it's 57. For women, 66. So I would be dead already there in my age. So I think that this lesson should teach us something. It's great to be here with you. It's great to be in the great state of Texas. And it's great to see so many liberty-loving people.
Yuri Maltsev, thank you, sir.